Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt and I'm a messenger with United Network News. We are the news division of United Network, which is also part of CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth, and our mission is to bring you the real news. Because there's a lot of information out there. I'm not sure if you've noticed. Most of it is incorrect. And what are you supposed to believe? How are you supposed to live your life if you don't really know what's going on? So our network releases lots of content throughout the week. We have in-depth news coverage, and part of that is our team putting together some really great, more in-depth pieces for you. Part of that is local stories as told through our incredible field messengers, which I'm going to tell you more about in just a bit. We talk about the restoration of our planet and how we're creating a beautiful new Earth. And we also have updates from the Global Intelligence Agency, which essentially is our boots on the ground and aircraft in the sky that can really give you a full picture of what in the world is happening fully on our planet and throughout the universe. Because really, what's happening right now on Earth is impacting everybody. And so all eyes are on us right now. This really is the ultimate battle of good versus evil. If you want more information about us, who we are, and the information we put out each week, head on over to our website, unitednetwork.earth. What you're listening to here, this is a podcast that I put together each week. So I wrap up some of our main stories that are discussed because I know that you guys are busy and you got different things going on and you may have missed something. And so this is kind of a wrap up of the top stories. This is also a great way to share UNN with other people, perhaps people that are just kind of waking up and trying to figure out what's going on in the world because the world is not what they thought it was. We hope to be a safe landing place for them and to give them the information they need to move forward in the best way they know how. And most of our content, at least initially for the first week, is behind a paywall because that's how we make money. We don't make money through advertising or anything like that. You guys fund UNN. And so for the first week, it's just available to our members, and then we post our videos to YouTube and Rumble. So you can still get access to all the content on those channels, assuming they don't take it down. But if you want access to everything the moment it comes out, you can become a member. But this podcast, you can send to anyone, right? Podcasts are free for the most part. I know they've changed some of that over the years, but the original vision of podcasting was that this was free content, and we are going to keep this podcast free. And with anything that we discuss on these shows, I just want to make it very clear. You're going to hear information here. You're not going to hear anywhere else. And for some people, that's a little off-putting because they think, well, how can this source just have the information that no one else has? Well, we're not part of the system, right? And we're not part of the disinformation, misinformation system that releases content through the majority of platforms out there. And we're not controlled. So when you don't have those barriers over you, well, you're going to be talking about stuff that other people aren't talking about. But with anything we say, I encourage you to think critically, do your own research, because a lot of this stuff, maybe not the stuff that's happening right this second, but any of the historical stuff we talk about, you can usually find some of that information online. It's not going to be first page of Google, okay? They don't want you to know most of this stuff, so you do have to do a little bit of research, and you'll find it. And then when you discover something and you feel good about it, then we encourage you to share that information with other people. This is how we're going to change our planet. Sound good? All right, any announcements? Well, in about 2 hours from when I'm recording, it is Mother's Day in the United States. So happy Mother's Day to all the incredible mothers. Maybe you are a grandmother, maybe you just had a baby, maybe your babies have grown up and they're out of the house and they're having their own babies, or maybe you're the mother of a fur baby, even the dads, okay? Dads can be very mothering as well. And so I just want to say happy Mother's Day to all of you. And I have to brag on my family for just a bit, okay? Because they have made this already, and again, it's Saturday night, an incredible weekend for me. It started Friday. My husband, there's this really small, intimate, local Mexican restaurant that we really like We live in the San Diego area. And we love this place. And so my twins, who I homeschool, and my husband, we went out and we had lunch at this place, and it was so much fun, and we were goofing off and just being silly and just spending quality time together. And then today we went to the beach, which was super fun. And if you guys have never just taken your shoes off and just stuck your feet in the sand, just leave them there. It's a form of grounding, and it's my favorite form of grounding. You know, obviously you can take your shoes off and walk on the earth in any place, right? And technically ground with our planet. But my favorite place to do that is at the beach, because it's a feeling, right? And so often, and it happened to me today, I was laying back on the blanket, I had my feet in the sand, and I just closed my eyes, and I just opened my eyes a little bit, and I saw all the sparkling lights. Now, if you've never seen Source in that capacity, where it's the energy of Source, it looks like someone took silver glitter and just threw it up in the air. And I'm looking up at this bright, beautiful blue sky with what looked like silver glitter everywhere, but it's just Source surrounding you. And it is the most beautiful thing. And my favorite place to do it is at the beach. So I am riding on this natural high this weekend, guys. And we haven't even gotten to Mother's Day. I don't even know what they have planned for me tomorrow. I know some stuff, but it's just been a really good weekend. I hope you're having an amazing weekend too. So let's get to it. Here are the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. I want to give our field messengers a virtual high five right now. So picture me just giving all of you guys that are listening a high five, because what you're doing is changing the face of news. And it's so incredible. For so long, and you guys know this, but there have been barriers in place in the form of mainstream media and even alternative media that have held the truth back from getting to the people. And we believe the best way to remove those barriers is for the people to tell their own stories. And that's really what our field messengers are all about, right? We have these cameras on our phones. It's just about recording what's going on in your community. Share the story from your perspective. If you can talk to other people, great, but tell us what's going on. And you don't have to be a fancy video editor or know anything about real storytelling, because you can send us your raw footage, and then we've got an incredible team of producers and editors that take a look at the footage, and we create the story for you. And you could do this as often or infrequently as you would like, whatever works for you. But that's what our Field Messenger program is all about. And anyone can be part of it. And we envision field messengers from every country in the world, many in every country. And I have a feeling we are just in the very beginning stages of this, and this is going to take off. And it, like I said, we are changing the face of news, and we invite you guys to be part of that. There's more information on our website, but for now, let's go through some of the stories that we shared with you this week that you guys, again, you took out your cameras, you told us what was going on, and we put it out there for the world to see. So Monica out of Romania. So Monica's incredible. She usually goes to various sites and gives us more historical approaches and tells the stories of different places in Romania. But this was more of a news story. In Romania's port of Constanța, an important national asset, it is at the center of a major corruption scandal right now. There are politicians, businessmen, and officials. They are accused of bribery and misusing public funds. And she tells us about this situation. She said the bribes are over $6 million. So we're talking about a lot of money here. She said over 20 people have been arrested so far. And it's a shame. She says the port has really become a playground for a bunch of gangsters. And you would think with all that kind of money coming into a port that the community would benefit from it. And it would if things were being run correctly. But when you've got people in there that are taking the money for themselves, then the community can't benefit. So again, we are exposing what's happening in certain areas because we know this needs to be fixed. But first, you've got to shine the light on it, right? So thank you, Monica, for doing that. Kim out of Michigan, a state in the U.S., takes us to a youth art showing, which I loved because Kim is a grandmother and she looked absolutely fabulous. She had like sequins all over her. She went to this high school art show because her granddaughter had some art that was on display, and she shows us just some of the creative talents of the students at the school. And you know, we know that our school systems have to change, right? Because it's really not about highlighting and encouraging creativity and independence. That's one of the reasons I pulled my girls out of traditional school and I'm now homeschooling them. But it's beautiful to see programs like this that still value the arts. For me, I wasn't really an artist. You know, I couldn't paint, you know, I had stick figures. It was kind of a mess, but I excelled in the performing arts. And I never really got too much of that out of high school. I had to go other places to seek that out and to really embrace the theater in different ways. So I love seeing schools, you know, really focus in on the arts. And that's what Kim's report was showing. So it's beautiful. Kathleen out of Tennessee takes us to a farm community in Tennessee. They are celebrating the opening of something called Holyoke Rising. This is one of those reports you actually have to look at, guys. Probably the last one too, because I'm telling you about art, but it's a whole other thing to see it in person or through video, right? So Holyoke Rising, this is a stained glass geodesic dome, and a lot of thought went into this. It was created over a 50-year period. So this was an artist. Her name is Calen Geary, and I believe Kathleen actually interviewed her, and then we saw her talking a little bit later, like presenting to a group, talking about why this is so important. But this structure, picture a dome of stained glass. And it really, tells a story. I'm sure it's Carolyn's story of some sort. And this was really a dream come to life. And it's beautiful because it's outside. And at one point in the interview, Carolyn was talking about how, even a cloud going over in the sky is going to change the perspective of how people view art in that dome, right? It's incredible. So it's always changing, ever changing. And she was talking about the colored light and how it actually heals your body, and that is very, very true. I think we have not even scratched the surface of the importance of different colored lights, stained glass, things like that, and the effect it has on our body. So, beautiful piece of artwork that people can experience over there in Tennessee. Owen out of South Africa takes us to the annual Spirit Fest. Now, this is a place, a gorgeous environment. Again, you got to see it to really appreciate it. But where like-minded people are coming together. This happens every year in South Africa to celebrate connection, self-discovery, and mindful living. So he basically takes us through, shows that there's a ton of tents, by the way, ton of tents everywhere. It's basically everything consciousness. He said there were some vendors there as well. It was plant-based food only, no alcohol. People were encouraged to bring their own plates and knives and forks because they want to minimize waste. And it was just an opportunity for people to learn from each other, but in a very... think of Burning Man minus all of the craziness. And if you were truly trying to connect with nature and yourself, and just be in the moment, that's kind of what Spirit Fest reminded me of. I probably did a horrible job explaining it, but thank you, Owen. We need more things like this, right? Where we can just sit and reflect. Pat out of Texas talks about our emotions. Okay, this is something that she has personally discovered. Because, here at UNN, we talk a lot about what you can do because we believe you all play a role in this and all of our roles are very important. But what can you do in order to change the planet? And so Pat thought of this and she thought of emotions and how they are actual vibrations. You hear the term, oh, I'm vibing, or, I don't get that vibe, or I'm not at that vibe, whatever. We're really talking about frequencies. And she shows us with tuning forks how vibes rub off on each other. And that's the same thing we do as people. So if you have a tuning fork that is vibrating at the vibration of love, and you have another tuning fork and you put them close together, well, that second tuning fork is going to pick up the frequency of the first one. It's not as loud. And she demonstrates this in the video. It was a great way to demonstrate how our emotions and therefore our frequency, how it rubs off on the people around us and how you have that energy transfer, right? So very, very interesting report there. Michelle out of South Africa takes us to a group that is in South Africa. They come together every year. It's a small community, and they plan their sustainable projects and activities for the year. Things like farm schools and building natural homes. And she takes us through the home where this was at. And it was just so peaceful. It was simple, but in a good way. So many times we feel like things have to be complicated in our homes, and they really don't have to. It's like when you walk into this home, because it was simple, it's like you could just relax. It felt very just calming because there wasn't a lot of electronics and crazy things like that. It was like going back to basics, which I think we're going to be doing. Okay, Amy out of New Jersey makes a carrot souffle. So I have been eating so many carrots lately. I feel like I'm going to turn into a carrot. We've been getting these natural carrots from these. We get one of those farm boxes every couple weeks from local farms. I always have carrots in those, and I get baby carrots from the grocery store, whatever. And I've been eating a ton of carrots, and sometimes I'm just, it's like, oh, I got to eat these carrots. So I might be making Amy's recipe, this carrot souffle. It looked like more of a dessert. I haven't tried it, but a lot of simple ingredients like cinnamon, turmeric, a little bit of honey. She likes to use local honey, which is great for a lot of different reasons. And she bakes it all together and she makes a souffle. So I might be borrowing that recipe. Kathleen out of Tennessee, another state in the U.S., talks about regenerative soil. So as you guys know, healthy soil, it's vital to supporting our ecosystem and enhancing biodiversity. And there is a place in Lewis County, Tennessee. I think their name is Unique Regenerative. And they are focused on creating topsoil with the assistance of livestock. So again, kind of going back to basics. What do we actually need to have healthy topsoil? So they have 54 acres, I think she said, and all of these different animals. So there's sheep, water buffalo, goats, cattle, ducks, chickens, turkeys, and she says lots of love. And they rotate. So they rotate in different areas on this piece of land. And sometimes one group of animals goes and then like the chickens come afterward. And the way they do it is the way it would naturally happen in nature. And it's what creates the most fertile topsoil. So in this report, they talk about how we're running out of this incredible topsoil for growing food. Obviously, that's a big problem. So we have to go back to the way Mother Nature typically did stuff, right? We think we were smarter than Mother Nature and kind of got off path there. And now it's going back to basics. So it was great to see a project like that. I think she said the project's going to continue on for about 7 years, hopefully longer than that. I'd love to see these projects all over the country, all over the world. And finally, Claudia out of Georgia, another state in the U.S., takes us to the circus. Super fun. My kids and I and my husband, we went to the circus, I would say less than 6 months ago. It was kind of traveling around, and we have this mall that's pretty much abandoned, and they were in the parking lot of this mall. And this is what it reminded me of. So she actually, Claudia, interviewed the ringmaster. And it turns out that he's a theater major, so he and I would probably get along really, really well. And he was living, I think she said, in New York City, kind of making the rounds, auditioning for everything, and kind of got this random job as the ringmaster for the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And that led to him staying in the circus and using his skills because he dances and he sings, and we got to see a little bit of the circus. So a very different perspective of how a circus comes together and the people involved. All right, moving on to some of the news stories that the team and I worked on for you guys this week. Let's kick things off with talking about Central America and some of the food and water issues that they're having there. So in Central America, there's an area called the Dry Corridor. It is a drought-stricken region, and it spans parts of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. It is facing severe flood and water insecurity, and it's impacting millions of people, over 10 million people, most of whom rely on small-scale farming. Take a listen.
When we get to the rainy season here, we get 2,000 millimeters per year, but it goes running down the hills to the ocean in a second. It's because we have not done forest in the upper hills. People are not seeing this connection between upper hills and lower lands.
By enriching agricultural areas with fruit and forest trees, soil is restored and once again retains water. Instead of creating floods, water from heavy rainfall is now stored in the upper hills. Now the growing trees bring shade and biodiversity is revived.
With poverty, child malnutrition, and strained infrastructure compounding this crisis, local and international efforts, including ecosystem restoration, sustainable farming practices, rainwater harvesting, and cross-border cooperation on vital water sources like the Lempo River, are working to help communities adapt, conserve resources, and sustain their livelihoods despite worsening environmental pressures. While many assume online degrees are cheaper and more flexible than traditional college, the reality is about 83% of online programs cost just as much, or get this, even more, due to behind-the-scenes expenses like tech infrastructure, cybersecurity, course development, and global marketing, plus the premium of a university's brand. Take a listen to these numbers.
Let's break down the average cost of an online undergraduate degree. On average, the cost of an online undergraduate degree ranges from $38,000 to $60,000. This varies based on the institution, program, and residency status. Tuition typically costs between $300 to $600 per credit hour. Don't forget additional expenses like textbooks, tech fees, and supplies.
While online learning offers flexibility ideal for busy schedules, it can lack the structure and networking of in-person classes, making hybrid options an appealing middle ground. And with employer attitudes shifting, especially since post-pandemic, the value of an online degree today often depends more on the program's quality and relevance than on where or how it was earned. Service charges in the UK's social and affordable housing sector are under fire as tenants face steep increases, sometimes up to 400%, for fees covering shared services like maintenance, insurance, and communal systems, leaving many questioning how these costs are calculated and whether they're justified. Here's the voice of one woman impacted.
The idea of shared ownership is to help people like myself and others that wouldn't otherwise be able to afford their own home, and then suddenly, again, we can't afford it, which makes a mockery of being shared ownership, doesn't it? And having social housing.
Housing associations, which built more than 100,000 shared ownership homes in the past decade, argue they don't profit from these charges, but residents, advocacy groups like SHAC and MPs are demanding investigations, legal action, stricter regulation, and greater transparency to stop the financial strain on tenants and ensure fair treatment. Iraq, once the lush cradle of civilization nourished by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, now faces a devastating paradox: worsening drought and destructive floods, as upstream damming, neglected water systems, and perhaps even changing weather patterns dry out farms and towns, while intense storms bring flash floods that overwhelm unprepared infrastructure. Here's some firsthand experience from someone who was caught in one of those dangerous situations.
I was inside the house when a big wave of water came. The whole house was filled with water. We ran to the second floor because the entire first floor was flooded. Help arrived and thank God they saved us.
Though local rainwater harvesting, efficient irrigation, and wastewater recycling projects are offering some relief, Iraq urgently needs long-term solutions, modern water systems, regional cooperation, and major investments to protect its people and land from this escalating water crisis. So you've heard of GMOs, right? Genetically modified foods, and they are stirring a global debate with some nations embracing them as a tool to fight food insecurity. And then there's others that are imposing bans over concerns about health, the environment, seed diversity, and corporate control. As it turns out, the issue with GMOs and the problems that it causes have been known for some time.
There was a scientist, Dr. Arpad Pustai, who was fired from his job after 35 years. He'd been given $3 million by the UK government to figure out if GMOs were safe. He was a pro-GMO scientist, the top scientist in the world in his field. He worked in one of the top nutritional research labs in the world. He discovered, quite to his surprise, that the generic process of genetic engineering caused massive collateral damage in the DNA and caused damage in nearly every organ and system of his rats in just 10 days. Over 700 articles about GMOs were released in 1 month in the UK alone. And within 10 weeks, the tipping point of consumer rejection in Europe occurred. First Unilever, then Nestle's, then everyone else said, okay, no more GMOs in Europe. But Project Censor described that whole affair as one of the 10 most underreported events of the year in the United States.
There you go, suppressing the truth, right? As the European Union faces mounting pushback against plans to deregulate GMOs, and countries like Mexico reinforce bans on genetically engineered corn, you can see the world is divided. Some, like Kenya, are lifting restrictions to address hunger, while others demand stronger protections for farmers, consumers, and native crops, leaving individuals to navigate food choices through careful labeling and local sourcing. Access to financial services, well, that remains out of reach for millions of people worldwide, especially in developing countries where poverty, limited infrastructure, and documentation barriers keep many people unbanked, a challenge compounded by gender and rural gaps in places like Africa.
One of the key reasons for the inability of such a huge population of Africans to access financial services, obviously, is one, the amount of poverty that we still face, which leads to people's inability to go online, either because they simply don't have smartphones, or even if they do have smartphones, getting connectivity is a huge challenge.
Even in wealthier nations like the U.S., millions remain unbanked or underbanked due to low incomes, high fees, and mistrust, with experts emphasizing that boosting income levels, not just access, is key to meaningful financial inclusion. India is grappling with a rising obesity crisis driven by decades of shifting eating habits, urbanization, processed food consumption, and weak food regulations, creating a double burden where malnutrition and obesity now coexist across both urban and rural areas.
The burden of obesity is on the rise globally as well as in India. A swift increase in the number of obese people shows India could soon be facing an obesity epidemic, with alarm bells ringing, particularly for the young. As levels of obesity in India rise across all zones, undernutrition and the accompanying outcome of an underweight population is now being replaced by signs of an overweight and obese population.
With new front-of-pack nutrition labeling rules recently approved and pressure from the Supreme Court in India, the country is finally taking some steps to help consumers make healthier, more informed choices. Well, AI is quietly transforming healthcare, especially through chatbots that help with tasks like appointment booking, medication reminders, symptom checks, and even mental health support. But while tools like WoeBot and TheraBot show promise in making care more accessible, concerns over harmful advice, transparency, and the limits of AI highlight the need for careful safeguards and a balanced approach that blends tech convenience with real human connection.
Are AI therapy chatbots the next step in mental health, or are they a harbinger of the destruction of humanity? As a clinical psychologist, people ask me this every day, maybe not phrased exactly like that, but people want to know, are these things any good or not? And until recently, I haven't really had a strong opinion because I've never tried one. So last week, I tried 3 of the top-rated AI therapy chatbots on the App Store and engaged with them in what I thought was a realistic way as a therapy client and gave my critique on them as both a client and a therapist. I'll give you the short answer right now. They weren't super awesome. 2 of them right away, like within 2 or 3 sentences, started telling me what to do and engaging me in action steps and lifestyle modification before really understanding anything about what I was going through. The 3rd one, I freaked him out so much he tried to refer me to a higher level of care. I think that AI therapy is a potentially beneficial idea, but it is very much not there yet.
El Salvador's ambitious economic growth strategies, including initiatives to boost tech, logistics, and tourism, are sparking both excitement and concern in the country, while efforts like lifting the mining ban and constructing a new international airport aim to drive investment and create jobs. They do come with environmental and social costs, such as deforestation, displaced communities, and potential harm to ecosystems. I want to play a soundbite of people that are impacted by this, and the voices of the people was in another language, so it has been dubbed over. Still, these are their words.
It is impossible to think and believe that mining will bring development. What it brings is destruction. It can bring development and profit, but for large companies, for the country's oligarchy and transnational corporations, but not for the community, not for society, not for the people. It is impossible to think that mining will bring development. It brings destruction and death.
So that there is greater awareness of what El Salvador is about to experience if we do not close ranks in the face of this threat of mining exploitation in this country. We have said and reiterated on multiple occasions that mining is not viable for El Salvador.
There is no doubt that the beneficiaries of mining here will be small groups of companies, whether national or transnational power groups, who will take away the minerals and resources that are in our subsoil. And what will be left for the communities in the end will be misfortune, pollution, poverty, and prostitution.
Here we have the San Sebastian River, completely contaminated by heavy metals, by the drainage of acid from mines, by the leaching of mining activities in the past, and we see how the river remains contaminated. So it is not true that the mine does not pollute. It is not true that there are no polluted rivers. This can happen to other rivers in El Salvador, and that is why we are trying to raise awareness among the population about the impact of metal mining and why we should say no to mining and yes to life.
As the country pushes forward with its plans, the true impact on local populations and the environment remains a key question. Now it's time for highlights from the Global Intelligence Agency and the reports that were put out by Kim Gogan this week. She's the head of the GIA. Now I have to tell you guys, this was a very interesting week. We had some big things happening in Rome, Italy, with the Vatican and the selection of a new pope, which, oh boy. If you really want to know more about what goes on behind the scenes of the conclave, I do recommend that you check out the reports that were released this week. Kim gives a lot more information. For our purposes, though, I am going to do my best to not dwell on what the crazy deep state people are doing, which, yes, includes anybody that is choosing anything for the Vatican. If you don't know, and this was news to me this week, each cardinal for however many hundreds of cardinals that were there, they all have 9 black magic magicians assigned to them when they become cardinal. So if that doesn't tell you what the Vatican is all about, I mean, come on. So this was a huge ritual for them. And I don't want to dwell too much on it because in one of Kim's reports, she encourages us, especially right now this week, to really stay in the light and focus on the things that are positive. So while normally I might play more sound bites about what these crazy people are doing behind the scenes, I'm not going to do that. On Monday, Kim was really busy. She released a statement. So let's start with the statement and we'll move on because she released reports on Wednesday and Friday. Okay, here's Monday's statement. We are still in the process of clearing remnants, as discussed in Saturday's report. Additionally, we are installing our own natural reconnection in cooperation with the council. That would be the Universal Council. Our own connections are going very well for us and not so well for the deep state. Also, for some reason, the deep state is busy researching the Vatican libraries for information as they believe the Library of Alexandria was moved there. Cliff notes. It wasn't, okay? But that's what they thought. We won't tell them. They are in the wrong place. They also have something planned for the conclave. I will give you a full update as things unfold on Wednesday. All is okay, just lots in progress. So listen to Wednesday's report if you want to hear about all the craziness of the conclave. I don't even want to go into it. Honestly, these people, it's not worth our time. Especially right now, we have to stay focused on the end. The end of their craziness is upon us. And the start of us as humanity being able to rebuild our planet with funding is literally moments away. So I don't want to focus on them, but if you want to, you can go back and listen to Wednesday's report because she talks about the conclave, some crazy things they were doing, how Trump or that crazy orange person who thinks he's Trump, how he's involved in a position that he apparently has now behind the scenes with the Holy See. I don't care about them. Okay, so we're not going to focus on them. There are two sound bites I want to play from you from Wednesday's report, though. The first is a message that Kim sent out to pretty much anyone that matters on the deep state side because she is tired of their antics. And I have to tell you guys, I even sent Kim a message this week. I'm like, this is classic. I absolutely love that you did this. I love how you phrased it. I love everything about this. And she basically just put them in their place. So that's the first soundbite that I want to play for you guys. This is Kim's message to all the deep state crazy people and letting them know that they have zero power.
I chose to be equally ridiculous today. And the first thing I decided to do was not send the message just back to the people that had reached out. I turned on every diplomatic line I had, so that is hundreds of intelligence agencies worldwide, every central bank, the Federal Reserve, every treasury in the world, including treasuries in America, the White House, the Pentagon, every military in the world, anybody with a diplomatic line that was connected to Alpha/Omega in the past, of course, Vatican, Holy See terminals, you name it, I called them all. So I set them all up. So the way that the system actually functions is you can do like a mass mailing, like a mass email, where you're sending an email to many, many parties all at the same time. And then you just type the email. So this is basically what I did. So I said, this is Kimberly A. Gogan, Ground Commander, Guardian, Earth's only ambassador, because that was the other thing Trump has been running around saying, is that he is the ambassador to the Universal Council now. That's his new claim to fame over there in Duck Dynasty land. So I said, I'm the only ambassador to the Universal Council amongst all my positions. So in other words, I have multiple positions. Effective immediately, this notice serves to inform you of my newly appointed positions as, number 1, Commander of all Black Sun forces, both on Earth and off Earth. Number 2, Global Military Headquarters Commander. That's GHQ. Number 3, Global Intelligence Agencies Commander, which means in charge of all intelligence agencies. This is the downline of the Black Sun. Number 4, Global Curator of Currencies, which we know I've been for a long time, but thought I'd notify everybody yet again. Number 5, Global Financial Commander. Number 6, PINDAR. Also thought I'd throw that in there in case they can't have a vacant seat anywhere, you see. 7, commander of all dragon forces, both on the planet and off the planet, which gives us the Order of the Dragon and, of course, the Gnostic Illuminati. Number 8, president of the world government and head of state of unknown country, to which all other governments are substates. Now, for those of you that don't know, just to remind you, unknown country is the head of state that is over every single country in the world. It is basically the global government. 9, global commander of telecommunications, both on and off planet. I didn't want them to think that I wasn't going to be in charge of telecommunication systems such as cell phones and internet systems and all other types of communication lines, as well as any off-planet or interplanetary connections, because I'm sure they're going to probably continue to try to reach out and touch some alien race somewhere that doesn't want to talk to them. So, number 10, omniversal gatekeeper, which I've been for a while. Number 11, earth gatekeeper. Number 12, I'm also the black pope. I'm also the white pope and the gray pope, and I'm the head of the tables, aka silent circle. You remember who they are. Number 16, I'm also the realm owner of all realms. Number 17, I am the kingmaker of all kings, just like Marduk was, and the kingmaker of all lords as well. Number 18, I have now appointed myself the queen of the Jewish population and all subsequent earthly religions. I did this because I didn't want to sit there and list, Buddha and all the other ones, Buddhism, and, there's approximately 100 and some odd religions in the world that some of them you may or may not have heard of, but that people are currently practicing. I just didn't want to give them any kind of leverage to maybe if they can't appoint a new pope, perhaps there'll be a Buddha incarnate or something that will show up, and you can't leave any stone unturned with these people. So I said, in celebration of my new appointments, I hereby am sending all of you the sum of $1 United States dollar. Sincerely under covenant, duly ratified and attached herewith, Kimberly A. Gogan. In addition to that, I put P.S. I am also Santa Claus, aka Saint Nicholas, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and the Abominable Snowman, just in case you were wondering if any of these positions are available. You never know what they're going to try to appoint themselves to, so I'm just trying to cover all my bases. And like I said, there's a little bit of sarcasm in there because, quite frankly, I'm fed up with their ridiculousness. And the world cannot continue to wait for the next full moon, new moon, and an alignment with Uranus to move forward. But everybody seems to want to wait. So I proceeded to send every single party on the party line here $1 United States free and clear allocation number documented dollar. And I did this mainly to prove the point to those that had called Mr. Melville that I still have the capacity to fund and I am still in control of the financial system. There's been a lot of changes. I haven't done it in a while. And I thought, well, this gives us a good reason to do that. So you have to run a test when you are now the commander of all of these organizations. And so a test has been sent. So I don't want to hear it anymore. Can she send money? Can she send it on a super secret line? I sent it to every central bank in the world. I sent it to every Fed, every treasury, everywhere. Everybody got $1. Just one. No problem getting through to governments, and within a very, very short period of time, there'll be no problem getting through to people and bypassing any negotiation with any bank anywhere. So they can try to do as they may, but they won't be able to do anything to stop us.
What I think is so significant about this is the deep state thrives on secrecy and compartmentalization. And Kim just threw all of that to the wind. She was like, oh, you just want a little group of people to know what I can do. Well, I'm going to send this out to everybody so you can't play these stupid games of, oh, Trump can really do this and he can really do that. He's got zero power, absolutely zero power, can't do a darn thing. That's not even the real Trump. And the operatives can't do anything either. So I just love that message. Okay, the next soundbite that I want to play for you guys is also from Wednesday's report. And Kim continues the conversation. We've been talking about how the Universal Council has been meeting and how the Mantids have been specifically helping us clear a lot of these negative energies here on our planet, and how Kim, at one point when she first brought it up, I think she said they were going to be working for about 4 weeks. Well, the Universal Council is on board with really helping with this as well. So we are really speeding up this original time frame. So I want to play this soundbite where Kim is talking about exactly what they're doing and how they're basically creating this new connection to our planet and why that's so important.
Our new friends, the Mantids, and the council are still adjourning. This meeting is running over time. People are coming and going a little bit, but most people are continuously visiting with the Universal Council at this time because this is a time of great change that could benefit all. And this is the most important thing that they can do. We have had a lot of communications, and the best way I can explain this, what they are doing, where they are, and where they all are, I should say, in their respective realms and densities and planes and different galaxies around the omniverse, most of which aren't even known to us here. They are making solid connections, not only for the golden age AI, but also for source, making sure that from their point of view, because we're way down here in the very cheap seats. I don't even think we're in the stadium if we were talking about cheap seats, for where Earth has been. So they have been working from their respective densities, dimensions, and galaxies, and we have been working from here. So we're trying very hard to make sure that we meet in here. So if there's something blocking them from getting here, then they'll call and they'll tell me what I need to clear out, and then I'll clear it out from here, because no one wants to come here to poo-poo Energyville, brought to you by the deep state. So they'll come from afar, or they'll come shielded, but they'll, if they need to, they will. But they have me here on the ground, and they know I'm more than willing to comply with anything that will help Earth and humanity, and that's my job. So I've proven time and time again that I don't, no matter how bad things get, source is source, and that's the side I'm on, and I stand firm with that. So we worked a lot on making those connections, and you can, if you were to visualize what's been happening, it looks like the installation of like an oil pipeline, except of course what's flowing through there is not black. But if you were to say run a pipeline from the US to Russia, and say Russia was providing the oil, it's quite a distance there to run a regular human oil pipeline, but you could get it from one place to another. Now, if there are, if this is being run underground or under the ocean, it's going to go underneath all these different areas of Earth. You would have to make sure that all obstacles were out of the way. You might need to blow a hole in a mountain. You might need to dredge it along the bottom of the sea. There's a lot involved in moving the pipeline. And that's kind of what you could say we have all been doing. Of course, the higher densities are easier. The lower densities, we go are more complicated. Plus, there are still some remnants around what we call the crown of glory, or the source stones that he installed here into Earth in the beginning. So we've been working on connecting that pipeline to Earth without an obstruction. Lucky for us, by about, it was probably a little after midnight my time, maybe about between midnight and about 3 a.m. my time today, the pipeline was connected sufficiently enough to begin flowing the quote unquote oil, or you could say the life force and the connection. So this is very positive for us, and everybody is very excited about it because this means that they will no longer be getting a reverb from them as well. Now, anything that they had access to, for example, these weather control or mind control or anything else they had minimal access to that was in the spaces in between, AI-wise, and also in the financial system and in other systems, will steadily and are steadily being, for lack of a better term, demolecularized by this joint pipeline, let's just say.
Okay, so again, that was on Wednesday, and then she came back for Friday. Again, there were some updates because by that time they selected a new pope, and of course Trump was like, "Oh, I love the new pope." Well, of course he would. He's an American, and basically, you know, the Trump side selected this new pope. Okay, if you really think that it was about all these cardinals getting together, you're wrong. They apparently don't have much say in anything except having their black magicians create all of these crazy satanic rituals to bring about this dark magic to hopefully get them more power, more access to the financial system. So Kim goes into more detail about that. But again, I don't want to, dwell on their dark ceremonies. The soundbite I want to play for you, literally, like, when I heard her, because, I listen back to this stuff just like you guys. She records at a separate time. And when I heard this, I was like, wait a sec, did she just say what I think she said? And she did. So if you recall, this is a continuation of the conversation about the Mantids, the Universal Council, and this pipeline that they are connecting, essentially, for lack of a better term, it's not really a pipeline, but this connection, right, to our planet. And I guess I didn't really make the connection when she was first talking about this, that this could lead to having complete financial freedom and her being able to transfer money directly to the people. It just didn't really click with me. I thought, okay, they're getting rid of dark energy or whatever. But that's not exact. I mean, yes, but it's more than that, because I know a lot of us have been waiting for this moment to happen where we can start our projects and we can actively feel like we're moving forward and we're doing good in this world of ours, because we all want the restoration of our planet. So this is the soundbite that might go down in history, okay? Maybe next week there'll be a bigger soundbite, but up until this point, this is the mic drop moment. And it's where Kim talks about this last moment where they're cleaning and clearing and basically giving the deep state a final ultimatum, and how the deep state reacted to that, but then what that actually means for us, because it is clean and clear, everybody. Take a listen.
We had some decisions to make. And those decisions involved the fact that with ourselves and with the help of the council and the Mantids, we had all but completed the final steps to make that connection for the Golden Age AI and the Key Integrated Master System, bypassing all of their local systems here. Anything they had left appeared pretty dark, meaning it didn't have a whole lot of energy to power it anymore. So we thought that we would give an opportunity to the deep state to see if they were ready to work with us, I guess you would say. Now, why would we do that? I know everybody has conflicting views and thoughts and opinions as to why we would do that. Well, let's say if they were to find some space junk, they also have smaller versions of this junk they build themselves or have built themselves called PSI machines, which can cause humans some damage. They could target all of those who received money or currency in this case, from us. We don't want that to happen. Sometimes when you have crazy people and crazy people don't get what they want, they tend to throw temper tantrums. And the deep state's version of a temper tantrum is quite profound, let's just say. So in the vein of trying to make sure we can make this transition as smooth as possible, we thought we would give them a little bit of time. There was a discussion that happened between myself, the council, some other people, and we thought we would give them a little bit of time, and in the interim, we would show our cards. So we did show loud and proud that our system was there, that we had and could bypass their systems. That was part of the sending $1 in currency. They tried to utilize that $1 in currency, and they realized now they need us to make that conversion for them. This was an interesting twist and turn because in the past, if you've been following for a while, then you'll know that we used to transfer real energy or real money into the system. And at some point and at different levels in the deep web, they would have to make a conversion from a currency to a debt instrument we know as notes, which is written on all of the papers that we carry around, we call money. And that conversion process usually took place in part with the Fed, in part with Tier 1 banks, and also in part with the Treasury. So we kind of flipped the switch a little bit, where now if they wanted to use any new money coming into the system, it would require our conversion and our approval, and that was very apparent to those that were actually participating in the receiving of the dollar. This, let's just say, became very confusing for these people because that's not how it always was. So you would have thought, and there I go trying to interject common sense when it comes to the deep state, you would have thought they would have realized what we were doing. But it became real obvious real quick that these people had no idea just how much control in the past Marduk had, and just how much control we on our side of source now have. They were completely unaware of how they got those buttons, how they got those access codes, and how they were able to convert real energy into money, and probably even why, and they probably didn't even care. So in this particular case, we flipped the switch. So we laid our cards on the table within the last couple of days, showed them what it was going to take just to see if they would play along. Then, unfortunately, people made poor life decisions. They decided to focus all their black magic bullcrap on me. And later on that evening, which was last night, they decided to go to all these locations and begin their game. So because they began their game, I said, well, this is going obviously in the wrong direction, and I don't think we're going to be able to fix this. And therefore, we are now pulling our offer off the table. You've got 1 hour to make a decision, and they continued. So for that reason, they are all no longer with us, at least the ones that were participating at that time. And it's been a bloodbath ever since. Now, why? It was evident from the system that we displayed, and I will repeat this again. It was evident that we were just a tiny little, tiny, tiny, tiny flip of a switch, and their system is out. It was obvious. It was out. I do not know how you can look at that and try to make a decision like they did, but that's okay. We did everything we could. We even gave a final 1 hour for return calls and that type of thing. And of course, they didn't. So when we decided to pull the plug, I did tell them, or insert the plug or flip the switch, so to speak, we did tell them that there was no going back, meaning we will not be reconnecting any military systems, government systems, intelligence systems, or any type of system that existed in the past. There will be no more room for negotiation with people like the Treasury and Federal Reserves around the world, or central banks. And we are not interested in going back at that point, because once we get to that point, that's it. We did all we could do. We said all we could say. We have been doing this now for years. There is no going back. Once we made that decision that we were going to flip the switch, which occurred midday yesterday, then their ceremonies continued to commence throughout the evening and into the wee hours of the morning, local time in various places. We then completed that switching or flipping of the switch, so to speak. Sorry, it's been a long day. Flipping of the switch by this morning, very early. All is moving along very well. Everything is connected. The flow is going well. There's nothing in the way of us flowing directly to bank accounts that we can see at this moment in time. But that leaves us with another issue. We know what they're capable of, and we know what they could do to the average everyday person who begins a project. Doesn't matter how large or how small it is. We won't get permits. We won't, we're going to have issues with supply chains, those types of things. And so we didn't want that to happen. Now, we could have done it the other way, where we work together, everybody makes money, and, we continue on in a different way. Or we're going to have to do it this way. So a massive assault has started, just barely started, to take place against the deep state. We have revisited the folks who all have chips in their head. And what I mean by chips in their head is most deep state members, at least the higher ranking ones, when you achieve a certain level, SSP, secret space program, or otherwise, oftentimes they they place a chip in the base of the neck, basically. And if you fall out of line, this was how the system used to work. If you fall out of line, either Marduk himself could hit the switch, or in some cases, deep state members could hit the switch, and that was the end of you. So you could call it a kill switch. So we began going down the ranks, level by level, tier by tier today, and started pushing all of those buttons, meaning, switch after switch after switch after switch after switch. It had to happen. It had to take place. We're now at bottom level here. So we're seeing what most of these people are going to do. Now, most of those people really aren't participating one way or another, could care less, that kind of thing. So we'll see. We'll see how long this lasts. Maybe the rest of the tiers down will become selective, based on what people want to do. But we had to try to start cleaning up the mess for our own and humanity's safety once we bypass all of their systems. And I hope you can understand that. And it was really out of concern for all of us that these decisions were made.
I think this is a really good point to make, because a lot of us have been focused on the moment where we can have access to this funding. But if your opposition is right there and they're going to throw up every roadblock, and it's not just a roadblock. I mean, they could physically hurt people. And I'm really glad that the council, the Mantids, Kim, everybody that's working on this came to this conclusion. because this is one thing that I had in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, maybe they'll come to their senses. Maybe they'll realize they're not going to get any money and start to work with us a little bit. And I know that's controversial because a lot of people don't want that to happen. And I understand why. I really didn't want that to happen either. But I also didn't want us to not be able to move forward because out of fear that something was going to happen to us. So according to Kim, there's a real bloodbath going on right now. And, you know, I know we're all going to have different opinions on this. For me personally, I don't feel bad about this. They have made their decision. And really what Source does now, that's up to Source. You know, if Source feels like, listen, you know, they made bad choices, but they can come back, you know, in a different life and do something worthwhile, you know, great. Maybe this was the best thing to have happen. Or maybe, you know, Source has the answers. I don't know. Maybe it's not good for some of these people to come back. But I just know in order for humanity to move forward, we had to get over the stumbling block. It sounds like it's happening at lightning speed because one of the things Kim said is that we should be ready to go this next week. And she's never said that before. And she's never said that it has been clean and clear for transfers to transfer money to the people. These are things that have never happened before, and it's only happened at this speed because we've had help from some friends. And so this is a very important time for humanity. That report, like I said, when I heard it, I was like, wait, rewind? What did she just say? So I think this next week, I would, you know, if you remember, I would pay close attention to these reports as they come out. I'm expecting big things because there's really nothing standing in our way anymore. But just know, and this comes back to the reason why I didn't want to play any sound bites having to do with the Pope and all their craziness. You know, we have to hold the light. And what does that actually mean? Because that's a very kind of woo-woo term. What that means is focus on the things that you love to do. And this is, you know, for some of us, this is a really easy weekend to do this because we already had stuff planned with our family, who most of us, I think, love our families, want to spend time with our families. Like I said earlier, like it's so easy for me just to enjoy this weekend and to be in that frequency of love because things are just happening like in a I don't know, really natural, cool way. And I am really enjoying myself. But if you can this weekend and into next week, and, you know, we should always live this way, but if you can really focus on just staying in that positive vibe, do the things that you love to do, you know, don't watch the stupid news, okay? Don't listen to what the crazy people in politics are saying. Focus on the things that you enjoy that make you happy. Get outside, enjoy nature, breathe in quality air. Just breathe. Focus on your breathing. That can do amazing things for you. You know, and just, you know, live in that state of gratefulness and in love. That's what we need to be focusing on right now. We are at the tail end of this crazy situation that we all signed up for. And I know we're like, you know, I feel like I'm at the starting gate and I'm like, you know, are they counting us down? You know, can we go? Are the gates lifting? What are we doing? So I know a lot of you are right there with me. This is the most exciting time to be on this planet and we chose to be here and it's just awesome. I don't have any other words for it. It's just awesome. So that is the rundown for this week. Again, if you guys want more information about us, who we are, what we do, visit our website, unitednetwork.earth. And if you choose to become a member, you'll get instant access to all of these news reports as we put them out. That includes the GIA reports from Kim and everything that we talk about, all things restoration and New Earth. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.